Good morning, men and women of Christ. Back with you with another spirit-led teaching, four-part teaching. And today's teaching will be from comfort in the flesh to contentment in the spirit. Why do we go from comfort in the flesh to contentment in the spirit? Because we're going from the flesh to the spirit. It's not that comfort is evil. Comfort is not evil. There's nothing wrong with being comfortable. But the problem with it is that when we're seeking comfort by sight in the flesh, when we're seeking comfort by sight in the flesh, it's not going to fulfill that God-shaped void of Christ, who is the Spirit. It's not going to fulfill that God-shaped void of Christ in the Spirit. Because when we're in the flesh is 100% limited to sight. The flesh does not have a clue of the Spirit. It does not even understand the way of the Spirit. The flesh operating outside of the light, outside of the government of the Spirit, is going to pursue the things of this world. Is going to pursue the things of this world. And in that fallen state, as spiritual men and women, we were limited to the flesh. When we fell from the grace of God, which is the Christ of God, who is the face of God and the faith of God in the Spirit, where we were the head, we plummeted to the place to where we were limited to the flesh, which is considered in the written word to be the tail. We were limited. We fell from living and we were limited to existing. We were existing by sight. And all we could see as fallen spiritual men and women was the things of the flesh. Because as a fallen spiritual man, I was limited to my malehood. As a fallen spiritual woman, you were limited to your femalehood. So we were referred to in 1 Corinthians 2:14 as the natural man and woman. Not that we were natural, we were still spiritual, but we were just spiritually, due to sin, limited to the flesh. So we were referred to as the natural man and woman in that fallen state. But once born of the Spirit, once circumcised back into Christ's Spirit, we were in the Spirit. And if we conform back to the flesh, we were referred to as carnal, which we all can be carnal at times. We were referred to as carnal. But once you continue in the contentment of Christ, because Christ is our contentment, He's our fulfillment. Once you continue in the contentment of Christ, then you begin to find comfort in contentment, which is Christ. Now that contentment in Christ within, it translates to the flesh by the fruit of the Spirit without. And the flesh comes under the government of the Spirit, the regeneration of the Spirit, the revitalization of the Spirit. Now we're comforted in the Comforter. Now we're no longer pursuing comfort, thinking we're going to find contentment in it, but we're now in contentment, and we've found comfort in contentment. Now the comfort which we sought in the things of the flesh is going to come under the government of the Spirit. You see, there was nothing wrong with contentment. It's nothing wrong with being comfortable in the flesh. But the problem with that is the flesh is ignorant of the Spirit. We don't know that we're not going to find fulfillment in it. What is contentment? Contentment is fulfillment. Well, nothing by sight in the flesh is going to bring contentment or fulfill that God-shaped void, which is Christ in our spirit. Or should I say the God-shaped void of Christ in our spirit. But we don't know any better. Now, comfort will bring us happiness, but it don't bring us contentment. And whatever brings you happiness outside of peace, where there's no peace in your spirit, is going to offset that happiness. And that happiness just fade away because we pursued comfort by lust. And lust gives forth to sin. Sin, when it is finished, is going to bring forth death, according to James 1:15. It's going to bring forth death, according to James 1:15. So we go from comfort in the flesh to contentment in the spirit, because through the circumcision of Christ, we're going from the flesh to the spirit. And remember what contentment is. Contentment is divine fulfillment of the inner man and woman, of the spirit of the inner man and woman in Christ within, and that translates to the flesh by the fruit of the spirit, which is the fruit of contentment without. Contentment is comfort. It's just that contentment is fulfillment. Well, whereas pursuing the things we see, when we pursue comfort, in comfort by sight, we'll never find contentment in the spirit. But once we're in the contentment of the spirit, it's going to translate to the flesh by the fruit of the spirit. And you're able to enjoy the things of this world, the things that make us comfortable in a world from the position of freedom, from the position of freedom from sin. Let us go to Ecclesiastes 5:10. Ecclesiastes 5:10 says, "For he that loveth silver shall not be satisfied with silver, nor that he that loves abundance with increase." Silver in the old covenant was symbolic of money. For he that loves money is not going to be satisfied with money, nor he that loves abundance with increase. All that money can buy, you're not going to be satisfied with it. Remember who this was coming from. This was coming from one of the richest men in the world that ever was, Solomon. But Solomon was rich in provision, not prosperity. So he was speaking from a place of having so much, and he said none of it satisfied him. Because none of it fulfilled him. Because when we're saved in the manner we were created, spirit, soul, and body. Now your soul and body cannot be saved. It is your spirit that was created in the image of Christ, who is salvation. And the soul is redeemed through transformation of our spirit, and the body comes under the eternal government of the fruit of the spirit. This is the order, this is the divine order of salvation. So at this time, they couldn't have salvation. They had a shadow and type of salvation in the flesh, but they could not have true salvation in the spirit. Well, what is it to have a shadow and type of salvation? The flesh is the form of the spirit. The material world is in the form of the spiritual world. The flesh being in the form of the spirit, the flesh is the shadow and type of life, just like the material world is the shadow and type of prosperity. We have to be very careful, because we can be in the shadow and type of life and in the shadow and type of prosperity and not at all have life nor have prosperity and be deceived into thinking we have a prosperous life. But the flesh is not life, and the material world is not prosperity. So we have to be very careful that we're not caught up in the shadow and type of life and in the shadow and type of prosperity and be deceived into thinking we have a prosperous life when we don't even have life. This is why we have to distinguish between the flesh and the spirit, the prosperity and provision. The provision they had in the old covenant in the flesh was a shadow and type of the eternal abundance of prosperity which was to come in the spirit. It was a shadow and type of it. So we have to go from shadows and types in the flesh to the original place of life and the prosperity that life brings in the spirit, where we become original once again. And nowhere in this text it's not saying that there's anything wrong with abundance. But he said there's no fulfillment in it. He didn't find fulfillment in the comfort which he had. He had plenty of comfort. He just had no internal fulfillment from it in the spirit. There was no satisfaction. There was no fulfillment. Never said he wasn't happy. He was happy, but was not content. He was happy, but was not fulfilled. You know, anybody, we all are happy with much. But if we're happy with much by sight, but we don't have fulfillment, which is contentment, because we're void of the grace of God in the Spirit, then we're empty. It's going to offset the happiness. What we end up with is a lot of things that we're thankful to have, but we no longer can enjoy. Because that Christ-shaped void of not having the peace of God, it robs you of everything. It robs you of everything. You can find excitement and temporary happiness, but by sight, but there's no fulfillment of joy by faith. In that fallen state, we can pursue happiness, but we can't have joy. Joy is the fulfillment of the spiritual man, because the joy of the Lord is our strength. The joy of the Lord is our strength. So what he's saying is it don't bring the fulfillment. It doesn't fill that God-shaped void. Ecclesiastes 7:12. For wisdom is a defense, and money is a defense. You see, money is a defense. Money is a defense against our necessity. Money is a defense against our necessity. And wisdom, the wisdom of God is for our prosperity. But look what it goes on to say. But the advantage of wisdom is that it gives life to those that have it. Wisdom gives life to those that have it, whereby the things we seek to be comfortable, it cannot do it. It can't fulfill the God-shaped void, which is Christ in our spirit. So it's telling us that wisdom is a defense and money is a defense, but it's just giving us the advantage of wisdom, that wisdom brings salvation. Wisdom brings contentment. It brings fulfillment back to that God-shaped void in our spirit, because if that God-shaped void in our spirit is not fulfilled, it offsets everything. It offsets the comfort we have. It offsets the things we were able to enjoy because of the lack of peace. Where there's not the Spirit of Christ, there's not the Spirit of peace. And when you don't have peace, it just offsets everything. You can have all the material comforts, but yet you can't be comfortable because the lack of peace keeps you from being comfortable. It keeps you from enjoying anything. John 6:63. It is the Spirit that makes alive. The flesh profits nothing. It is the Spirit that makes alive. The flesh profits nothing. Now, why? Because the flesh can't prosper, because the flesh can't live. The flesh wasn't created, it was made. It was our spirit that was created in the image of Christ to experience the life of Christ. So it is the Spirit that makes alive. That's Christ's Spirit. The flesh profits nothing. It's the temple of the Spirit. The words I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life. They are spiritual life. They're not the letter, they're life. We had the letter in sin. Life is spoken to us in faith. We go from the letter to the light. Light is revelation. The letter is information. We follow the letter by sight. When we're born of the Spirit, we're going to revelation by faith. That separates you from the letter. And what separates you from the letter, it separates you from church, because church was founded on the letter. Bible-based religion is church, and it was given to us by Christ, but that was for a season and a time. And we have to go from the letter of Christ to the light, which is the eternal reality of Christ. This is where that God-shaped void in our spirit gets filled. The letter can't fill it. It is the light that we fell from that has to fill it. John 4:24. And when this happens, when we go from John 6:63, we understand this. He says, it is the Spirit that makes alive, the flesh profits nothing. The words I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life. Psalms 91:16 says, he'll satisfy us with long life when we come to the revelation of this understanding, because The life of the flesh comes out of the spirit. And for us to be sustained in the flesh with long life, that happens by the fruit of the spirit. Because the flesh was made to exist, our spirit was created to live. So the flesh has to come under the government and preservation of life. But in the flesh, we're not going to find life. The flesh is in the material world. The gospel is the spiritual world. So the gospel comes out of the spiritual world through our spirit into the physical world where the flesh is by the fruit of the spirit. This is how we're sustained with long life. And long life means to live long, because your long life comes out of the spirit and prospers in a prosperous state, a state of eternal youth, where the curse of aging, we're cut off from the curse of aging. We have an age, but our age just determines the years we've been on earth. Aging comes from the curse. That comes due to sin, where the fruit of sin is spiritually deteriorating our flesh, causing it to age, taking it back to the ground at a rapid state. It's outside of preservation. John 4:24, God is the Spirit, and they that walk with him must walk with him in the revelation of the Spirit, must walk with him in the Spirit and in the truth. That's the revelation of who he is. That brings us back into the fulfillment and contentment of Christ. And then we can enjoy comfort, because we're enjoying comfort materially in the flesh from a place of joy in the Spirit. You're able to enjoy comfort from a place of peace, but we're never going to find contentment in comfort, because the flesh don't know that. We have to know that in our spirit. So then we can enjoy what we accomplish, or we can enjoy the things we have or the things God promised us from a place of being fulfilled. From a place of being fulfilled and not using it to fulfill, because it can't do it. Now we get into part 1 of this teaching, Philippians 4:11 through 13. 11 says, "For I have learned whatsoever state I'm in, to therewith be content." He's talking about his state, his situation in the flesh. To be content, find comfort in the contentment of Christ in the Spirit. And this is what the Lord does. The comfort we seek, he limits us in our necessity by sight, so we can learn to find comfort in him by faith. He's restoring us back to contentment so that we can find contentment in comfort and we can find contentment in comfort. Comfort and contentment, and not thinking that we're going to find contentment in comfort, because we're not going to be able to find it. So he has to limit us in our situations, make us uncomfortable in situations so that he can press us into the comfort that we once had in him, the contentment we have in him by revelation. 12, "For I know how to be abased, and I know how to abound." And the word "know" means to know Christ in the Spirit, irregardless of our situation in the flesh. "Everywhere and in all things I am instructed both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need." See the ups and downs of the situations in the flesh in order to bring us into the contentment, which is the fulfillment and satisfaction of the Spirit, where we're going to find comfort there. 13, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." How does he strengthen us? In spiritual knowledge and power. This is how he strengthens us. Now we go to Philippians 4:19 of the same chapter. Philippians 4:19 says that my God shall supply all your need. That's necessity. That's comfort in the flesh according to his riches and glory by Christ Jesus in the Spirit. And what that means is he's going to provide the comfort we sought without limitation. Without limitation. You can enjoy comfort without limitation. Unlimited resources, unlimited financial resources, unlimited material resources. He removes all limitation. Once we're back in the contentment of Christ within, he removes all limitations and add to you the comfort you sought in the flesh without. Because there's nothing wrong with the comfort. It's just what we thought we would find in it. We thought we would find contentment in it. And we didn't find contentment. We find happiness. We find happiness and comfort, but without contentment, it's going to offset the happiness. Because contentment is peace. And how can you be comfortable without peace? It offsets everything. If you don't have the peace of Christ, if we're not at peace, we can't enjoy anything. We can't enjoy eating. We can't enjoy drinking. We can't enjoy possessions. We can't enjoy the things money can buy because peace keeps robbing us of it. So it's nothing wrong with having it, but the place from which we have it is much more important than just having it, because we want to enjoy what we have. We don't want to have what we can't enjoy. I mean, we're still thankful for having it, but we can't enjoy it. We can't enjoy anything because the lack of peace keeps robbing us of everything, of the enjoyment of everything. 1 Timothy 6, 7 and 8. Six says, but godliness with contentment is great gain. No. 7 and 8. Let's go to 7. It says, for we brought nothing into the world, and it is asserted that we can carry nothing out. Which we know this just sobers us up to put us in the right mindset. And having food and raiment, let us therewith be content. Now, you know we can't find contentment in just having food and raiment, but it's saying to, as long as we have our basic needs met by sight, continue in the fulfillment of Christ, which is the contentment of Christ by faith. And all the things we once sought, that we were seeking, he's going to add it to you anyway without limitation. But we're going to have it from a place of peace. From a place of peace. From a place of peace and fulfillment, where we're able to enjoy the comfort that we have. We're able to enjoy the things that we have and not actually have what we're not able to enjoy, because the lack of peace or no peace, it just keeps robbing us of any type of enjoyment and fulfillment. Of any type of enjoyment and fulfillment. So we have to go from comfort, seeking comfort by sight, to contentment by faith. Because 2 Corinthians 5:7 says we walk by faith, not by sight. So when we're restored back to grace within, it's going to bring the flesh under the government of contentment without. And then we'll find joy. We'll be able to enjoy the things we have, or the things that the Lord has promised us, because we'll have peace. And peace gives you the freedom to enjoy everything. Everything. Because the material world is of the Lord. It's for the Lord. And he created it for us to enjoy. But due to sin, we can't enjoy it from the perspective that we were designed to enjoy it, because sin took fulfillment from us. And when we're unfulfilled in spirit, all the comfort, all the things we can buy, we're not able to just enjoy, because sin keeps robbing us of the enjoyment of it, because sin robs us of peace, and peace offsets your happiness. And there's nothing wrong with being happy, but happiness without peace, how long is it going to last? It's not going to last long at all. And that brings us to the conclusion of part 1 of this teaching. I'll be back with you with part 2. Be blessed in the Lord.